Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks since our last podcast episode, and there's been a lot that has gone on in those last 2 weeks. So I thought that we would just go live. We would talk about pretty much just the current state of what this team looks like and what they're going to do going forward. We saw Cohen's press conference, which was kind of one of those pinpoints that we're obviously going to talk about. And then obviously we're halfway through the season. So this is the best way to do it. So for those of you watching us live, let us know what your thoughts and opinions. We've got a poll in the chat. So yeah, we're just going to roll the intro. We're going to talk about the current state of the Mets, just basically everything that comes to mind going on right now. And this is going to probably just be our podcast for the week, most likely. So yeah, let's go. Welcome to Mets Weekly. Let's go. Well, as per usual, I'm joined with my lovely co-hosts, who I respect so much. Andrew, is there anything you want to just say off the bat? We'll get into
No, this team sucks. Not really. This team just sucks, Wayner.
Okay. I think your dog agrees.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is there anything that you'd like to add before we get into just everything?
I mean, besides the team struggling, I mean, it's just frustrating that there's side of it that it doesn't make for a big trade deadline season. It really hurts the content. So from that standpoint, that's a bit frustrating because that's one of the most exciting times of the year with all the rumors and things like that surrounding the team. That's not really going to be happening this year with the position they're in. So that's one of the things that's really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, overall, this team, even though they won today and currently on a 1-game winning streak, red hot, this team is a dumpster fire. This team is probably one of the worst. I mean, just one of the worst situations I think I've ever seen. I have never seen a team just completely give up so early in a season and just look completely dead. Now, I'm not going to say that most of the problems we didn't see coming, but this team is bad. This team is really, really bad. And especially with them having the highest payroll in all of baseball, comparing to the teams that sucked like 2013 and 2017, this is even worse. This is an even worse situation because you are pretty much a $400 million dumpster fire. Like, that's what you're looking at right now. Now, I just want to talk about the Cohen press conference because this was a few days ago. I wasn't home when this happened. So obviously, I will say I do give him credit for taking it head on. I do give him credit for that because we all know with the old ownership, this would have never happened. He would have never just been open, sat at a table, talked to the media, and just, take it face on and give them the straight facts of what he thinks. Now, I personally got exactly what I expected from this press conference because I did not expect him to say, oh, Eppler's done, Showalter's done, this is it. I did get one thing I'm happy about is him saying that he is pretty much being able to, he pretty much wants to go to some farther lengths to possibly improve the youth on this team and improve the farm system. So anything else you guys want to say from any takeaways from the press conference that he had a few days ago? Frank, Andrew, anybody?
I think the main thing was when he said everybody wants a headline thing, fire this person, fire that person. And then he said, it makes it to where it doesn't seem like the Mets location. But in that same press conference, he talks about how they're still looking for a president of baseball operations to keep Billy Eppler as the general manager. So every single offseason in the same regime, we've had these president of baseball operations searches going on with still not having that concrete guy. And if Steve Cohen is so concerned about, is this a good place to work for? Is this an organization that teams want to be at? then it should, like, he's already trying to not line because he wants it to look like it's a desirable place. But based off the way these front office searches have gone, it already looks like an undesirable place for teams to work. So, it kind of goes both ways because we know that Eppler failed. I mean, there's no question about it. Buck Showalter has not done a good job this year. Despite winning manager of the year last year, 101 wins and all that, they haven't done a good job. So I'm more, as a fan, you want to see, like, if you don't get it done, you need to go. Kind of funny. But if he's so concerned about, the public image, things like that, I just very frustrated that we're going to have yet another offseason. We're going to be talking about different candidates, different presidents of baseball bridge, because, again, we haven't had any more momentum on that David Stern rumor. So, again, the more time goes on with that, the more I believe that isn't true, especially since it was coming from Bob Nightingale. So if we're going to be doing this search all over again, as Steve Cohen is worried about, I need everything to look good, and I don't want, things to look crazy and want to look stable and things like that. You got other things to concern yourself about, really. I mean, to me, you got to win. When your team has underperformed this much after how much you invested, you have to do something. I mean, this whole idea of, let's just do absolutely nothing, I don't think that's going to get the job done, because that's kind of what put them in this position in the first place. We're not really going to do anything, whether that's personnel-wise, players-wise. You're going to keep finding yourself in that same position.
Frank, your camera's cutting in and out, so I don't know if you have to figure something out though. But yeah. But I mean, Andrew, you want to add anything to that, like, of this just whole situation of the press conference?
Yeah, I was kind of like you. I wasn't expecting firings, and just you knew he was going to come in and say it. And he was pissed, and he just kind of talked his mind. And you saw how, and you saw in the answers how pissed off he was at this team. And he called them out to an extent where, like, it's on the players, it's on them, which is the fact. Yes, we could fire Buck, we could fire Hefner, Chavez, whoever else, the hitting coach, whatever. It's still on the players to get their head out of their ass, and that's pretty much what he said. And, him saying, like, if they continue to suck, I'm not adding, which is good to see. You don't want to see, let's trade Mauricio for Alexis Diaz and friggin' Spencer Steer or some shit just because to try to save the season. I like that he said, hey, if we suck, we'll sell. We ain't adding a damn. We're not going to go out and have to do something stupid like past regimes maybe would have. But, excuse me. But yeah, you didn't really get much. You got what you kind of expected. That with that, he's just pissed off. He wasn't going to fire anybody. I did hate that he's like, he guaranteed that Eppler and Buck are both safe this season. I wouldn't have said that. If that was me, I said they have their jobs for now, because if things were to get get worse, yes, firing a manager doesn't really do much if you're sucking anyway, and, you're 50 games under 500, and that won't change the momentum. But that's just something I wouldn't have said. I would have said as of now they have stable jobs. I would have not guaranteed the whole season these two guys being available. And him putting faith in that this is the way to go. Like, he trusts Billy Eppler to make the right moves at the deadline. I don't. We'll see. And him bringing up the financial thing with Scherzer again was continuing to be being pissed off. If people be like, how about this guy? How about we just talk about right now? The deadline's in a month. And you could see it how he was. People kept asking about him. Like, he will be aggressive at the deadline if making moves to get extra assets and using the money. But he's just pissed, and he's like every fan. He's just, this team was supposed to be better. And you take that 101-win team, you knew some regression was going to happen, but holy shit, they just fucking Titanic the whole season. But
submarine to the Titanic.
Submarine to the Titanic, just absolutely.
Are we allowed to make that joke?
I don't know. Who knows? It's YouTube. We're getting sensitive as shit. But yeah, it's nothing more than what we expected. He didn't make himself look like a clown. That's just kind of my big thing is I always wasn't gonna go like he would have again kind of like that 3 to 5 year like something that quotable again. He really didn't do that. He just kind of said his piece, and he said it kind of pissed off and just calling the players out and telling them to get their head out of their ass.
I don't think that changed much. To be honest, I don't think that changed much because this team, I mean, they still, right after that, I mean, they just collapsed. Like, right afterwards, I mean, what did we have, like during this week, I mean, what was it? 3 of the 5 games were just gut-wrenching chokes. I mean, they had the lead, they didn't. They won today, but it's like they're not going to build on it. We know they're not going to build on it. We've already seen a long distance trend. We're 81 games into this season. Like, we've already seen a decent amount of trend of what this team is about. They're not going to build on it. I'm sure. And if they win tomorrow or they win the next game, they're not going to build on it because this team is beyond dead. And then one of the biggest points I actually want to point out, considering the whole team, speaking of a player that is the entire team, can we put Pete Alonso on the injured list, please? Like, yep. Obviously there's something not right. There's no reason for him to be playing right now. And I understand that mathematically they're still in the race. They're still here. In 2019, we came all the way from the back. Don't care. His health is way too important for somebody who got drilled on the wrist at a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. And, there's a lot of things that have built up with the whole situation with Pete Alonso the last time that we talked about it on the podcast. But, I mean, he comes back from injury, and this is something that really, again, this is just going into the specifics, but, I think we're just kind of rambling at this point. He comes back from injury, and then, what was it? A few days ago, I don't know what it was. He gets hit again. No one defends him. Nothing. No one comes out of the dugout to defend him. Nothing. This has been something that's really pissed me off a lot. I don't know if it was in the Phillies game. I don't know. Phillies series, something like that. He gets drilled. Was it Kimbrel or was it was somebody? I don't know.
No, I think it was Kimbrel.
Yeah, it was Kimbrel, whatever. He gets drilled by Kimbrel. No one comes out of the dugout to defend him. Nothing, absolutely nothing. This is your star. You are nothing without this guy. Your offense is absolutely nothing without him. All right? I understand the offense hasn't been the 100% problem here, but you need Pete Alonso to perform in order to win consistently. You need him. He is going to, if you see him as a long-term guy that's going to be here, you fucking defend him. End of story. It's kind of like, it's pretty much the same thing that, me and Andrew will know a little bit more about this. In hockey, when your star gets hit, you defend him. You defend I don't care if he's right or wrong. You defend him. End of story. You make sure that doesn't happen again. And that's just there's just a small example, just one tiny example of how lifeless this team is. So lifeless. The whole season is on Eppler. Cohen handles $1 billion business. Yeah, that's the thing. Sorry, I'm completely covering up Frank here. But
good.
Yeah, I mean, Cohen obviously he signs the checks, and that's something that definitely gives him a little bit of an edge of, well, this isn't really him. He's not baseball people, and also he's not a meddling owner, which we are really used to. So I feel like it's hard to say. It really is hard to say, to be honest. If you can blame much on Cohen, this is his team, though. I mean, he is the face of this organization overall. And I think that a decent amount of blame definitely goes to Eppler. Obviously. I mean, this is something that we've talked about for so long. And just overall him as a general manager. I mean, he just does the bare minimum. He does the bare minimum. And this is something, and this is a team right now that I'm seeing right now looks exactly like an Eppler team in Los Angeles. Overpaying these veteran guys, lack of depth. I mean, not taking advantage, there's just tons of things that he has done that it's a carbon copy of what happened in Los Angeles. And I don't even want to get into the whole Stearns situation because we don't know what's going to happen. We all know that that's something that Cohen is most likely has his eye on, and they were trying to push it out of him during that press conference. But we all know that, my main concern, I think I've said this before, but I'm not really concerned with Eppler staying because I think that he's going to stay because of the relationship he has with David Stearns. But what about the people around Billy Eppler that he brought over from Los Angeles. What's going to happen with them? Because we all know what happened in Los Angeles with the Angels. This is not the Dodgers we're talking about. The Angels, the other LA team, they failed miserably failed. So what's going to happen with them? I mean, just from top to bottom, it's a disaster. It's been a disaster all year. Anything else you want to add? I mean, go ahead. Just pour it out.
There's one little thing I get when that was said, which I laughed at in trying to defend Eppler, is when he said, well, our pitching lab, we just started building our pitching lab and all that. And you got other teams ahead of us with you that have had it for longer and built it up. So I did laugh at that fact of Cohen just trying to maybe take a little heat off Eppler for the shitty bullpen management. But also, again, you asked for this. You didn't want to go out and add a Chafin, a Britton, Archie Bright. Like what, there was how many veteran names you could have added before the season, but yet his main thing is he wanted optionable relievers. So this is what he wanted. This was the bed Eppler sowed, and now you have to sleep in it. Like, I don't feel bad for him. Obviously, I feel bad as a fan because they suck. Again, Dioka getting injured, but isn't great, which was one of our favorite piece of that pen. Writings, we'll see if he's anything. He just got back from injury. Stop. He just got back. We'll see if he can be anything. But again, this is what you asked for. This is Billy's bullpen. This was his arms. This is what happened. So I get, there's, our pitching lab is, only a couple years old. I don't want to hear that, Steve. You're trying to defend Eppler. Shush. For his own incompetence.
Yeah, it's been just it's miserable. It's pretty much just miserable to watch. And I think that overall, I didn't see it being this bad, but I definitely expected with the Mets basically delusion at this point that winning 101 games last year, at the end of the day, it didn't mean shit. But for some reason, they thought that was a building block for actual sustained success. And that's something that really annoys me because everything that you need to win baseball games these days, they don't have. They just don't have it whatsoever. From the offensive standpoint, from the pitching standpoint, you need young arms. You need guys who throw hard. You need guys who hit the ball hard. You need guys who pull the ball. You need guys who hit for power. And they don't have it. And they chose to ignore it. Let's not act like the Mets didn't have options to do so. They had options, but they did not want to be opportunistic, which is something that was really preached by Billy Eppler during the offseason. But yet again, we're still doing the bare minimum here. And again, water under the bridge. We're 81 games into the season. But at this point, I mean, you got to look at from where it actually started. I mean, this is a disaster. And it comes from the full-on phrase of, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And they didn't get better in the offseason. They most certainly didn't add to the team. They made the bullpen a little bit better, right? But that completely went out the window when your best one just went down before the season even began. I mean, there's so many things that they should have done differently that we said from the top of from the beginning of the season. There was so much stuff they should have done differently. And for some reason, there was such stubbornness to believe that this team was good enough. And for some reason, they did not want to make any improvements. They did the bare minimum. And that's something that's what Billy Eppler has been known for. I mean, I understand Artie Moreno was a huge problem in Los Angeles. He still is a problem to baseball. But come on. I mean, it's a problem. It really is a problem because It's just bare minimum. If you continue to enable it, this is what you're going to get every time.
And I think what frustrates me is that, when it came to Buck Showalter, whether you like him or you don't like him, around the league, he had a really good reputation. A guy who knows baseball. He's been there, even though he hasn't won the big one. He had a big reputation. That's why Steve Cohen made sure to hire him. So around the league, Buck Showalter is very well liked. The same does not go for Billy Eppler. He's not a guy that is well known around the baseball circles, that is talked about very highly, like the way Buck Showalter is amongst, just a bunch of other organizations. So with Buck, I understand him having a little bit of a leash because, again, he has experience, whether for better or worse. Eppler does not. That's what really frustrates me. So, I mean, if I'm bringing in a new guy, say it's David Stearns, for example, if Eppler's staying, which I don't think he should, all those other people around him from Los Angeles have got to go. I would so much rather have the guys from Milwaukee and from other organizations that Stearns has worked for to have these guys in here, not the guys with Eppler in Los Angeles. Because, like you said, I mean, you want to blame – I mean, you can only shift the blame so many times. You want to blame Moreno. You want to blame Buck. You want to blame, Cohen. Whoever you want to blame, Eppler in multiple facets has not got the job done. So I just don't understand why he would have such a long leash. I really don't think that – because, again, I just don't see why you're bringing in president of baseball operations to be above Billy Eppler but inherit Billy Eppler's mess. That's the thing that's got to be very frustrating. When Cohen was talking about being a good look for other teams to work for this organization, that's not appealing when you're going into a job, when you're like, I need to fix what the guy working under me created. That's just weird. It's just a very awkward thing to do. So, again, to me, I just think that he hasn't earned what he's been given. And based off the way he's done, like we've said, off seasons, trade deadlines, just so many bad moves. And then the obvious moves, the things that you say time and time again, they should do this, they should do that, they don't do it. So I just don't understand how you could defend or be willing to keep him. He just has not earned that in any part of his career as an executive. That's what really bothers me so much.
I think it's a good amount of denial that is definitely just led by this organization of for some reason they don't understand that this isn't going to work. This isn't good enough to win a World Series. Was it good enough to win 101 games last year? Yeah, great. But that's not what the goal is here. Okay? We're trying to win a World Series. That was what the goal was. And for some reason, they just don't know what to adapt. They don't know how to play into any projection or play into what could actually work. For some reason, they went with this mentality. They went with this entire thing that we're just going to do the bare minimum and make the most top-heavy roster whatsoever. And we're still going to be okay with bringing in all of these garbage pieces of optional relievers. Don't forget that. These optional relievers, these optional pieces, and this is what they wanted to do. That just seems to me, especially with how Eppler has handled pitching his entire career, that just seems like you're doing the bare minimum and you don't want to finish the job. I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I mean, it sickens me. It really just does sicken me to think that at one point we were in such a fantastic pivotal point of, and this is water on the bridge. At one point, Carlos Correa was here. Carlos Correa, we could have added another bat. We could have traded all of these pieces. And now you look at it months later, it's just like, how did we get here? This is a disaster. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's just so much that showed this team's downfall, and they chose to ignore it. And that's where they're at right now. Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that really puzzles me is that what mode is this team in right now? Are they still trying to get back into the wild card race? Because when you look at this past week, they've had a few one-run losses. And the common factor in a lot of those one-run losses is still the bullpen struggling. And we talked about it ever since the Edwin Diaz injury. You knew that you were going to be a big man short in that bullpen. And we've seen month after month after month of bullpen struggles. And the fact that they have not gotten any quality major league pitchers to come into this team to help out the bullpen or take some projects that are actually, feasible, not these just absolute no names that don't even make the team. The fact that they still have not done that is very frustrating because they're never going to get back in the race if they keep blowing all these one-run games. You had the Phillies on the ropes. You had that Buck Showalter disaster and bullpen nightmare. You're blowing games against the Brewers bullpen. Giants, last night, David Robinson, those guys couldn't get the job done. So I just don't know how they ever going to get in the race if they just keep losing for the same reasons over and over and don't do anything about it. I don't understand how your very first move of the offseason was re-sign Edwin Diaz. He goes down because it looked like he was a top priority. It was your first move, but then you do nothing about it. And then you say Carlos Correa was really important. You get him, lose him, do nothing about it. So again, like I always say with the Mets, your actions do not back up your words and what you're saying. You're saying this is important to you, but then when it doesn't happen, you don't do anything about it. So they really have got to decide, what is the mentality right now? Because they're very just stuck in the middle and because they're not doing anything about all the holes that they have.
This is actually half true. And obviously it's not the way that you mean it, but it made the roster a lot deeper and they could have sold off a lot of assets to make more assets of a Steven Matz trade, basically. One arm for two arms. I mean, we already talked about
Escobar would have been gone before the season started.
Escobar would have been gone. They could have moved Canna possibly. Yep. I mean, there was some stuff that they could have done with Carlos Correa coming in here, and also they could have moved some money to maybe bring in some younger pieces because they obviously had some obviously a top heavy, they still had the top heavy roster with Carlos Correa here, but they could have made the team a little bit younger in terms of the depth overall. But obviously I know what he's talking about. Obviously he can't pitch, obviously. Maybe he could pitch better than some of the guys we have coming on the mound this year. But speaking of the pitching, we all know it's just been a full on disaster. At least, we know that, losing DeGrom, you weren't gonna replace that whatsoever. But the fact that they are one of the worst pitching staffs in all of baseball, one of the most expensive pitching staffs in all of baseball. I'm not surprised because of what you brought in, but the fact that you invested so much into that to be a bottom 5 in all categories this year, it's a disaster. It's actually insane. Now, I'm not going to go backtrack and say, let's go all the way to the beginning. Oh, they shouldn't have signed Verlander. They shouldn't have signed this guy. Shouldn't have signed that guy. But it's like, whether you wanted Verlander or not, you expected him to be better than this. Whether you wanted Scherzer off your team after blowing it in the wildcard game last year, you expected him to be better than this. And I understand Verlander pitched great today. And Scherzer's been better recently. But we're going to need these guys to go, 6 or 7 innings. And we talked about that being a problem because they're so old. They're old. It wasn't guaranteed to happen. And now it's at a different extreme at this point where it's pretty much unwatchable. And from your two aces that you're both giving $43 million to, you don't know what the hell you're going to get from them. You don't know if you're going to get length. You don't know if you're going to get any sort of they're not reliable. You can't $87 million relying on two guys. You can't rely on them. They're not reliable whatsoever. And that's a big problem. It really is a big problem. And not to mention making the top of that rotation so top heavy in $87 million. The rest of the rotation is awful. Let's not be real. Let's be real for a second. Tyler McGill has not been good. We've already talked about that. Carlos Carrasco is on his last leg. I don't even know how the hell that dude is still breathing at this point. Kodai Senga, we didn't know what we were going to get from him, but we weren't going to get length. We knew with his control issues, obviously. David Peterson's a mess. Jose Budo is not good.
And
Joey Lucchesi is not fantastic. I mean, for some reason, they decided that a top-heavy team was the way to go. And it just wasn't. It wasn't. And we saw these problems from a mile away, but now they've just gone to a complete extreme where they're one of the worst teams in all of baseball. I mean, this is bad. The Mets strike again. What's going on, man? How you doing? But I mean, I don't even know where you even go from there. I mean, there's so much that you can talk about where just so many things have gone wrong. And I mean, it's just not a fun team to watch at all. And you just have no end in sight whatsoever. And I mean, do they want to get back in this race or not? They're 9 games out of this wild card right now.
But behind so many teams.
I'm calling it. I would call it right now. Personally, I would fully call it right now because I don't see this team moving in any good direction, especially with so many teams ahead of them. They need so much to go right. I mean, this is just, they're dead. I mean, they are so dead right now. 18 and a half games out of the division. You're nine games out of the wild card.
Huh.
You struggle to win a series. You you haven't won back-to-back games in how long? I mean, you know what's going to happen every game. And that's what you're seeing right now.
When's the last time they actually won a series?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I'm pretty sure when they swept the Phillies, right? At Citi Field, whatever, something like that. I mean, they were. I mean, June has been awful for them. I mean, they have been an awful team in June this year. I can't even call it a June swoon. Years. This was just a June funeral. Yeah. I mean, just in order to get back, that's the thing. It's just they're so dead in the water right now. They can't even win 2 in a row either. Yeah, so like that's the thing. It's just
is crazy.
It's a disaster, and I'm already looking forward to the trade deadline at this point. And I have my my doubts of what's actually going to happen at this trade deadline, and I just whether they win or lose. I mean, to be honest, I don't even care anymore. I don't even care. It's just so like what can you say anymore? I mean, and it's not even just like, oh, I'm rooting for this team to tank right now to the trade deadline. No. They do it themselves anyway. Mm. Like this is the Pete leaving the. I mean, he's a free agent at the end of next year. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they do with that, to be honest. I mean, we talked about him with his whole extension, which obviously he still deserves, even though he's not hitting well.
And like even though he's not hitting well, I think he rushed back. I mean. That timetable was over a month, and he came back in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. He's not healthy. I mean, there's no other way around it. I don't even put much stock into his struggles right now. We've seen what he could do for this team far too many times to be like, oh,
and what he was doing before he got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, let's be real. June is always the worst month in the Mets season. Yep. I mean, this is tough. This one was tough. Look, the Mets only need to get back to 500.
The two bits of good news is Nimmo having a massive power week. I mean, it really stinks that the team's playing so bad, but if you could just get a little bit of that going forward in this 8-year contract, that deal's going to look even better. Because that was like the one of the very big blemishes on him was not hitting for enough power, but he's just maybe 3 home runs this week, 4 home runs this week. I mean, he's just been hitting them in a bunch. I've never really seen this at any point in his career. Hit this many in a short span. So I love it.
I think you might see him hit 25 this year at the pace he's going. I mean, he really has looked fantastic. And I mean, obviously
I think
the man's Mr. Consistent. I mean, was it
20? Oh no, the 11-1.
2018 was when we started off 11-1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was so Callaway's entrance into Queens. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I mean, let's be real for a second. I mean, Nimmo, and that brings me to my next point, obviously. But I mean, Nimmo, he's Mr. Consistent. I mean, I
would really like to make the All-Star team this year. I think if he keeps this up, he has to make it because the rest of the team is brutal. He's got to make it.
I hope it's Nimmo. I also hope, Lindor was up
He's
there,
sneaking
obviously.
Up there. He's another guy I was going to talk about. He's got the power streak going. He can hit 30 with the way he's going right now.
He
That'd
definitely
be a
could.
nice
Oh
number
yeah,
to reach.
100%. But to be honest, the only guy I'm voting in right now is Tommy Pham. That's my all-star. All right,
well,
Tommy Pham's my all-star right now.
And
all
listen,
right,
I would love to.
If he does get into the all-star game, the trade value goes up, and that's all I really care about right now.
And that's what I'm really hoping, that we just get some kind of useful arm for him. That's a young arm. That's all nice. I really ask.
Hell yeah.
Just at least one. Young velocity, we need, like we said in our videos, we need some guys with stuff. I mean, we just have no one that you really could build on and try to make something out of. With the tools that they got, you can only do so much.
Yeah, that's another thing of what's the point of the Mets. That's the thing. Even if they do fight their way back all the way into the playoffs, it's not going to be good enough. We all know it's not going to be good enough. And with this team just getting worse than it was last year, that team wasn't good enough either. So it's just, that's it. Outside of the Braves, no other NL. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I think that they're just so dead in the water right now that they're going to obviously need a spark, and they haven't shown any possibility of that happening. Obviously, Verlander and Scherzer have to pitch well. That would be like the first step if they were to get back into this. And then obviously we need Pete to start hitting again. But I mean, he's at one point right now where he just does not look like himself. I mean, just the swings that he's taking are just ugly. He doesn't look like himself whatsoever. And I'm not trying to make any excuses of him being hurt or anything, but it's just obviously something's bothering him because he was fantastic before he got hurt. So, it's just, it's just a team that they look disinterested. They really do. Overall, they look completely disinterested. And there's a few guys who do care, and they look like they do care from their body language. One guy that does not look like he cares whatsoever, which I'm really disappointed in, is Starling Marte. He looks like he's done. He looks like he is actually ready to leave. And just to be honest, if he does want out, I'd be glad to get rid of that contract 100%. But it's the fact that we're seeing this he's looked so bad. Let's be real for a second. All year, Starling Marte has been fucking terrible. Overall, he has been awful. Stuff that we have never seen from him, we are seeing consistently from him. This guy looks lost at the plate 90% of the time. His defense has taken a complete dip. He looks so disinterested. He looks, I don't know if he's hurt or banged up or whatever, but just another one of those Eppler moves that just does not seem to look good long term. The fact that we have him for 2 more years, I'm fucking scared. I really am. Overall. And
that's the problem, is that someone his age, you're not going to get better. That's the concerning thing. Again, they went that veteran route. So once you have that,
I understand not having anybody in the farm system.
You can't really get out of that.
I understand their farm system being very top heavy at the point to bringing in these veterans, and they had to, but there was other options that were younger. Let's be real for a second. There were options that were younger out there. And one that I will continue to point out, especially with the outfielders, of how they approached this last offseason. Jorge Soler was available. Let's be real. Jorge Soler was available. I wasn't big on getting Kyle Schwarber initially because of the health concerns that he had with his ACL and everything. But he definitely would have helped a lineup like this that's power thirsty. There were options out there, and they chose to ignore them. And that was just something that got really frustrating. And, it's the bare minimum that really just pisses me off. And there's no quick thinking on your feet whatsoever. You're just oh, well, this is what it is. And we'll go at one pace, but then we'll just stop. And that's it. And yeah, Lindor leads all shortstops and runs. RBIs and home runs plus great defense. He should be also. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. But the batting average is too low, and they don't like that. So we'll see.
But across the league, batting averages are down really bad. So you can't hold it as much against him as previous years.
Because it's irrelevant. That's why. Because good hitters don't hit for average anymore. That's why. End of story. And that's why, to be honest, OPS should be, the highest OPS should be the batting title now. So there's my hot take.
And
that's the bank.
And who is the highest OPS on the Mets?
Tommy Pham.
Tommy Pham.
Hot.
Who would have predicted that one?
Oh God.
All right, so that brings me to my other point that I obviously wanted to bring up. Let's say the Mets do blow this thing up. Let's say, I don't think anybody's untouchable. I don't think anybody's untouchable at this point. Everybody has a price, right? Any players that you would try to avoid getting rid of and somebody that you want to see here next season, obviously. I have about 6 or 7 of this whole entire 40-man roster. But overall, I mean, I don't know whoever else you would want to add to this list, but obviously Lindor and Alonso, you're not moving those. Lindor and Nimmo, you're not moving those deals. It's not going to happen. Alonso, I obviously want to keep because they're nothing without him, right? I want to keep Alvarez because he's Alvarez. And even though Kevin Parada has looked really good in the minor leagues, it's going to still be a good year or two. Obviously, Senga and then Diaz. And that's pretty much all the untouchables that are not untouchables, but like guys that I would push to keep. The rest of them, I mean, they're either just aging veterans or they've just been shit. Like they need to go, right? I mean, is there anybody else that we actually could add there? I mean, is that
Andrew,
just like
are you trying to keep Beatty still, or would you be looking to move on if good deals in front of you?
I mean, Beatty's under the control years. I don't think they're going to move him whatsoever. I mean, they like him a lot, but it's like
for me, honestly, if you're not under the age of 25, you can go. Kids are the only people untouchable. Nimmo is like the only other guy. Like Lindor, nobody's touching that contract, so you could just leave him there. Nobody's going to take that
Nimmo
contract.
and Lindor are pretty much the locks. I mean,
exactly.
They're pretty much the locks to be here next year. So,
yeah, but everybody else is
they need to,
including
he cut.
Oh, that was my connection again.
Including Pete Alonso. Including Pete Alonso.
You think so?
I would put him out there. Cardinals got Goldschmidt and Arenado on the market. They suck. They got a year left. Those other free agents. Put them out there. I'm not saying trade them, but I'm saying I'm listening to offers. I'm saying if I can get 3 pieces of Pete Alonso, a first baseman, to us it means a lot. But if I get something I can need, 3 to 4 pitchers that we could desperately need for the future, I'm listening. There's no untouchables except unless you're under the age of 25 at this point. Everybody else is fair game.
True. Yeah, obviously.
I'm not.
I mean, of course.
Again,
I mean, the only thing is that
you want to keep Pete, but
I would prefer to keep Pete, obviously. And I'm not saying he's completely untouchable, obviously, because the contract year is coming up for him. It's next year. I mean, that's you're going to have a determining factor to see if he's going to be on this team long term. I would prefer to obviously keep him.
If he hasn't signed yet, it's not going to be easy to keep him. I mean, you're playing a dangerous game.
True. And
you don't want the DeGrom situation. That would be just a nightmare.
To be honest, if they could let DeGrom walk, they could let anybody to walk. If they could let DeGrom walk, I mean, they could let anybody walk at this point. So it's not something that I'm really. I wouldn't be shocked, but
this is a massive problem. So
yeah, it's the starters 50 days. I mean, here's the thing. The Mets offense isn't a problem, obviously, this year, but it's still not going to work in the postseason. You still need to mix it up. And that's something that you actually have to do. And listen, I want to talk about, like, obviously I'm talking about Pete Alonso, being on the injured list right now. And obviously I know he wants to play. We all know he wants to be out there, but it's like the team isn't going anywhere. Let the guy rest up, have Vientos play first base. And that's what they need to do. But I'm concerned that they're not going to allow to do that because of just how they've handled Mark Vientos overall. I'm just at this point, at the pace they're going, I'm just waiting for after the trade deadline and seeing where that team is at right now. Because it's not just like the old pieces that they have right now. I mean, there is some pieces that they have to let go of. They have to move on. And they just don't want to accept it. And that's something that it does get very frustrating, but we'll see what they do at the trade deadline. That's obviously going to be something that we're looking forward to. We're obviously going to make some more videos about that. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. Yeah, kind of saw that coming. All right. Hot.
Yeah, 4 years, 80 million. Whatever the fuck it was.
Need another wing.
Another wing.
Oh my god.
And you kept Josh Hart.
Josh Hart, Dante.
Okay, whatever. Nick's completely aside right now. Pitching around Major League Baseball is somewhat mediocre. Drew, yeah. I mean, you don't have the best pitcher in baseball pitching right now. So. Yeah. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah. Like Corbin Burns pitches tomorrow.
He pitched today.
Corbin Burns actually pitched today, and he was perfect.
Yeah, he had a perfect game. I actually saw that.
Yeah.
Then,
oh God. Imagine if DeGrom, when he came up, he was 18 when that happened. And, like he was 21. Ugh, would have been nice. Okay. Philly scored 19 runs today against the Scrappy Nationals this season. Yeah, I mean, you got to hit home runs. I mean, we've talked about this so many goddamn times at this point. The game has changed, and they just don't want to change with it. And hopefully, if it's that next generation of guys that do provide that power to this team.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Like with Vientos, is that if I just feel like if he's not going to be part of your team, why don't you trade him for something you need so badly, like pitching, for example? Like, why is Vientos not traded for a young pitcher where a team can actually use the guy who needs another power bat that can play first base? And because you got Alonso locked down, and obviously Vogelback can't lose his job, so you might as well get like something you need. Because Eppler, when they traded Eppler, he called it that surplus. I mean, what we've said it for years now. What are they doing with this kid? They've really butchered the way they've handled it year after year.
I just want them to give him a chance. That's it. Just give the guy a chance. Let him play.
Use him or lose him. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Give him a week to be a starter. See what you get out of him. Obviously, the guy has a ceiling. I mean, overall, aside from some launch angle issues, I mean, the guy was making incredible QOC. Like, let's not say that like he was just completely overmatched. It's like for some reason, I don't know. They just seem like they're really tied into these veterans at this point, and maybe it just takes moving them at the deadline for that to happen. But then there's also some of these veterans who are going to be up here and they're going to get the call before them. I mean, we know that. Yeah.
That's a good one. This is, oh man, that was a botch job.
Yeah. They have issued. Yeah. I mean, I think overall, I'm hoping that the next generation of players that we have come in here, there is a change here of the player development. And we talked about that. It's going to take a while for that to become a thing. And we're obviously going to see, you got the draft coming up. What is that? July 11th?
The All-Star week. Yeah, All-Star week.
It's All-Star week. So,
some shit like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure we might go live for that. I don't know if we will. We'll see, because obviously the Mets stink so much that we got to go from the beginning, from the top. I mean, we actually talked about that on the podcast of him being 7th in exit velocity. Yeah, I mean,
can't teach that. I mean, this team needs some exit velo, and they
do
seem to avoid it. And I really just don't understand why. And again, it's like someone with
says the Jeff McNeil fan.
No, what has Daniel Vogelbach done to earn still keeping his job over? And he had that mental break.
Be an Eppler move.
He had that hot streak. Move. Yeah, whatever. He had the hot streak. He's hitting home runs against the Astros and all that. And then what happened? He went right back to being crap. So, what are we doing?
Yeah, why the hell is he facing Showalter today? Like, again, just why are you in the lineup?
Well, I think Showalter came out of the pen, didn't he?
Oh, I didn't watch it. I didn't actually. I just saw the kids on there. Like, I didn't.
That's what I mean. When they switch to a lefty, you're telling me when they switch to lefty, that's the thing that just bothers me the most with all the young players not getting any time. You're telling me that, Daniel Vogelbach, he's facing a lefty, which obviously we know he can't do. You're telling me that Vientos doesn't have a spot on this team right now?
No, you got Danny Mendick here. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah, that's another thing. Danny Mendick pinch hitting for Daniel Vogelbach the other night.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Seriously? I feel like
that's the thing. How does your DH get pinch hitter, for Danny Mendick? How's it possible? It's crazy.
Don't get it, man.
Absolute craziness.
It's actually.
I mean, where's the versatility? Like, you have just so many guys that don't do anything particularly well, so one-dimensional, that you're left with a bench like that.
You have why is Danny Mendick and Luis Guillorme here at the same time?
And Luke Ritter's down in AAA. Make it make sense.
Trade him.
That dude's got 19 bombs this year. What the fuck are you talking about? Get that man on.
Is he even on the 40 man? No, right?
No. Get him on the DFA fucking.
Why would we do that when we have Danny Mendick and Luis Guillorme and
who've got a total of about 6 homers in the last 5 years?
And you've seen all of them.
And I've seen 2/3 of them.
It's just nuts. It's crazy. I don't know. Maybe there's.
But again, I feel like that stuff is more of a Buck thing. I would think, as far as the Guillorme, the Mendick, and then during the game when it comes to pinch hitting Vogelbach for Danny Mendick, that's not Eppler, that's not Cohen, that's all Buck. So,
Yeah, and that's what does annoy me a lot about some that do defend Buck. Like that's what gets. It's like it's not him. It's the analytics. Okay, so what is he doing there?
Yeah.
Babysitting? What is he doing?
Just have a computer.
He's not defending any players.
Uniform on it, and then just let the computer make all the decisions if that's the case.
And this is what I mean. They're not using analytics the proper way. I mean, okay, whatever data they're using
is wrong.
They're not using it correctly.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're looking at the individual players and not what actually works in this league. So, and Stewart is also hitting a lot of home runs, and DJ Stewart's
sucks.
DJ Stewart's kind of stinky, but whatever. I don't know. There's been a lot of AAA guys,
and we don't need no more fat guys on this team. We have enough fat.
Is he fat?
No, he's a little fucking Oompa Loompa. He's a big boy.
Oompa Loompa.
Not fleet of foot.
Not fleet of foot, not far of fork.
We got plenty of those.
So, Max Scherzer, no trade clause. I mean, he's already kind of, I don't know if he's denied it, but he's kind of just shrugged it off a little bit.
Well, did Scherzer come here to pitch with Jake? Isn't that what he said was his main reason he came here?
That and $44 million a season or whatever.
Yeah.
$43 million. Get it right. But better than Vogie.
I mean, I really hope so, because it was like you said earlier, you just can't rely on Max. Like, you'll see glimpses of a good Max Scherzer, but the inconsistency.
I think he's been good recently, but still not Max.
Exactly. And then I just think that I can't see him being any better next year. If anything, he'll be worse, if not injured. So I'd rather just, if a team's willing to take them, go for it. Give me more young players.
They're not showing any possibility of breaking out as a team just whatsoever. I mean, I'm a seller at the deadline already. I've already reached that point where I'm looking at player performance for their trade value.
Playing bad is never good business, no matter what.
Yeah, no.
Unless you're tanking for, Victor Wembanyama, it's not a good idea.
Wemba.
I'm going to be injured in 2 months.
Predicting injuries. You really are. You really.
Dude, we literally just saw it last year with the first overall pick. The dude's a fucking twig.
Who?
The little white guy OKC drafted last year. No, the white guy OKC drafted. It's the same thing.
Oh, Hogel? He's the same thing. Like, can we stop drafting these string bean ass centers? They're never gonna last.
How about if Quintana, he's close to joining, if he pitches well, is that somebody you'd move as well and try to just, again, aim younger in the offseason? If he has a quick, good month.
In the offseason.
With what pitchers are going, with what pitchers are going for on the market, yes, I would 100% consider moving him. I mean, he's making $13 million a year. If he gives you a quality sample when he comes back, which is probably not going to be till after the All-Star break because it doesn't even look like his fastball can reach 92 miles an hour right now, and he can't really go past 4 or 5 innings. Like the rest of the team will fit right in, but
so it was making the bullpen even worse, more overused.
If he give you quality, he gives you quality. But I mean, there's no reason, there is no excuse as to why a majority of these people should be here by the end of the year. There really isn't. But I don't think you can make that many trades and set off a record at the trade deadline, to be honest. There's so many old guys that they just got to move on from, and they just don't.
And I'm glad that Cohen at least acknowledged that this is the oldest team in the league. But then again, it's like you signed off on Eppler assembling the oldest team in the league. So don't acknowledge it now. You definitely could have done something about that before. If Eppler's telling you, I'm going to sign this guy, that guy, you're like, we're going to be the oldest team in the league? Really? I mean... It's just
signing the checks. I mean, he's made it. I mean, again, that's another thing where I get off of Cohen, where I would just sag off of Cohen for a little bit. Where I mean, he talked about he's not a baseball guy. He has his day job. He has this. He has that. He's here to just sign the checks, and that's what you're looking at right now. And it's just the fact that this is what Billy Eppler was only able to do with his money. It's disgusting. It really is. It's a disgrace. It really is. Overall, I don't think, I don't think they ever hire the right guy. They always hire the 8th or 9th choice, and that's pretty much it. Well, maybe that'll change with Stearns if he were to come in here, but I mean, can we wait another year at this point as this team gets even older?
Yeah, that's why
I know Kershaw's a free agent, older. But Kershaw's going to be a free agent, and we need pitching, right? So, 35 years old, he has to be taken in by Eppler. So, also in the Cy Young race this year, so it's very appealing. I don't know where they're going to go from here, but. It's just, I hope that they do have some kind of plan if it continues to go south and at what they're trending at. It's a disaster. It really is. And this is the worst case scenario right there. Too young.
It's the worst team money can buy.
And that's what frustrates that other than Diaz, there wasn't that many injuries. So there's no excuse for
they're just
how
worse.
poorly they played.
They're just a terrible team. I mean, I didn't expect them to be this bad, but I expected them to be worse, obviously. I had them at 84 wins at the beginning of the season. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting them to be good. I didn't really think this team was going to be fantastic. I had them at 84 wins, finishing in third place or whatever, and they're not even on the pace to do that. So
Definitely not.
it's just and then you're also just looking at our other competition that they're performing well. I mean, they've dug themselves into too much of a hole.
I mean, like the Mets are very old, but look what Miami has done with so much young pitching, and they're playing great. And when the Mets actually got to
they're
the
looking
World
like
Series,
us in 2013,
exactly.
2014.
When the Mets actually got to World Series, it was young pitching. It wasn't a overpriced veteran, top heavy guy roster. It was young pitching that keeps you in every game, that gets you deep into games, and all you need is just a couple runs here or there, and you're good because it was consistent pitching. They just don't have that at all right now. Like we said, even the guys you should count on, inconsistent. And we talk about so many of the other rotation options have not gotten the job done. And even when they pitch like Senga, he'll give you 5 innings of 1-run ball. Oh, he'll only give 1 run, but he'll give you 5 innings. So now when I'm looking at Drew Smith coming in and all the other guys coming in after him to keep that game close, very hard to do. I mean, and especially with Bug Magic, and he wants Otto to go 2 innings. He's old as dirt. He wants Dave Robson to go 2 innings, old as dirt. And then neither guy is available. They don't do well at that, and then they're not available the next day. I mean, you're messing yourself up today and tomorrow. And again, I can't blame Cohen for that. I can't even blame Eppler for that. That is poor managing.
I've just already established that I'm not a fan of Buck. I'm not a fan of Eppler. I'm not a fan of just like anything that they've basically tried to pull onto us of all this talk of sustainable success. I mean, this is just not the way to do it. And I feel like they've continued to shoot themselves in the foot on the field, off the field, just overall. I mean, it's not a good recipe whatsoever. As I'm looking at a picture of Luke Voit just completely jacked in the sleeveless jerseys for Syracuse right now. That's cool. Another guy, Luke Voit, that you all, that's also another guy, Luke Voit, that you could bring up for if you were to put Pete Alonso on the IL right now, bring him up. If he performs well, you could get something back for.
Yeah.
Like try and trade. But just like they don't want to.
No, and we've talked about that for a long time too. Poor asset management. I mean, look at Gary Sanchez.
I thought he had only 10 days. I'm surprised he's still here. Is that just like before?
No,
I don't know.
I think Gary had that in his Gary signed that in his contract. So some guys do, some guys don't.
You had him at 84 wins with the highest payroll in baseball at the end of because it wasn't a good team. I mean, overall, it was such a top-heavy roster that was relying on veterans at the top. That was it. 84 wins. That's literally what I thought it was going to happen. I mean, and it's even worse. I mean, I don't know. Like, it was, I don't know when I did this. It was like maybe the end of March when I wrote all of them down.
Was Diaz already hurt? Yeah, right.
Diaz was hurt. Yes, Diaz was already hurt. I mean, what did they do afterwards? Like the big game changer, Dominic Leone. I mean, like
I don't think that happened yet.
Did that? I don't even.
I thought they got like
that was way after it. I think they signed him like in April or some shit. I don't know. But what did I have? I think, I had them at 84 wins, and I had Atlanta at 106, and I had Philly at 92. I mean, I expected Trey Turner to be a lot better. Mm-hmm. Miami at 75, and then Washington at 60. Yeah. The Mets missed the playoffs. Everyone in management should be fired. But I mean, we'll see what happens, what they do with the offseason. Obviously, the next checkpoint is the trade deadline. And that's literally what we're going to see. And I'm sure we'll probably be live for that for hopefully the fire sale. I'm hoping that it is a fire sale. Because I don't think that they can. I don't think they can.
I will literally be at Kauffman Stadium with the team on the deadline. I will be with the team.
You'll be watching guys getting rerouted.
I'll be literally hitting guys outside the parking lot when they get out of the locker room.
They'll be turning around. Maybe they'll give you their jerseys and not going to use them anymore, and they'll sign them. Yeah, you're not going to get it anymore. Can I get that?
Can I get that shit, boy? You throw that shit anyway. You're going to throw it out anyway. Bye, Mark. Bye, Max. Bye. Get your ass out of the bus. Get on the bus.
See you, Tommy. Bye.
Bye, David. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. I mean, the guys
Hi,
on
Ronnie. Come on, Ronnie. You get up here. Mark can come back up. if August 2nd lineup does not have all three of the kids in it,
Yeah,
I mean all of the big three. I mean Ronnie as well. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
They didn't do their job.
But what if we go on a huge hot streak? We're gonna go on a big hot streak. We're a second half team.
They'll go on a hot streak in September. That's when the hot streak will come.
When it doesn't matter. When they're like 40 games
out. Still like 12 games out of it.
Oh, and that's the other thing Bucks credit line. They're gonna make whoever doubts this team. Yeah, Buck, I fucking doubt this team. I'm gonna be real scared at this team being doubted.
In the words of Brody, come get us.
Come get us, yeah. Come get us. This team sucks. Like, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Is everybody watching got questions?
Is there any more questions?
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. Any other comments you guys want to add into this whole shit fest of this team just being so awful?
Is Eric Carlson going to be a Penguin or not?
Do we see some of those other young arms like Vassell? Do we see them this year at any point? Do they wait till next year? Stuff like that.
Well, Vassell struggled so far in AAA. But AAA, I don't really give a shit about with pitching because it's just like it's a hit or miss. He probably should have just been called up afterwards, but they're so hell bent on Carrasco and they think that all these guys are great, but I don't know. Whatever. Pitching
literally in the draft. Just go full Angels draft, all arm.
That's what I want to see. I really would like to see that be the point of emphasis in the draft. They got to get more arms in the organization.
And college arms, not high school arms. College arms.
Oh,
these guys up here for.
Nah, he sucks.
Nah, he's kind of cool.
Too many ground balls. Who's free this offseason? Pitchers and offense, knowing we
a wife beater, Aaron Nola.
The wife beater.
That's about it.
I'd like to
really wife beater, Aaron Nola. Nathan Eovaldi, if he opts
out.
He could opt out. I mean, he's having such a good year.
Nola is.
But then, he's going to be a year older. It's like, do you want to do a 3-year deal at that point? Again, it'd be one of those things kind of like Robertson where they got him a year too late.
Julio Urias is really, really good. I would love to get him, but I don't even know what they're going to even look to do at this point. I mean, we all know that they could spend, but like...
I mean...
we should not go after Ohtani because the mass contract... I mean, if Ohtani wanted to meet with it, I mean, I'm obviously going... I mean, I'm 100%. I mean, I wouldn't. He's definitely the guy you take the risk with.
And my counterpoint is, like I've said a couple times, they had Correa signed for $300 million. Where did that $300 million go?
For 20 days.
Yeah, like where did that $300 million go? So it's not like if they got Ohtani, they were just going to stop adding. Especially with the other money that's going to be coming off the books, hopefully. If they get rid of these other veterans and they can start getting these young players to the major league roster, the Mauricio of the world. So they should be able to get Ohtani and then still have some other people that are quality on this team without totally destroying it. If they were to give him free agency. If they did the trade, that would be a little different because they would have no pharmacists left and they'd have to give the huge contract. So that's the risk that they're running, that they do have that very top-heavy farm and then they have to get rid of that top part to get him. That's the risk. That's really.
I mean, I've always been Ohtani.
There's no trading.
I've always been sign him. I've always been sign Ohtani in free agency if you want him. Like that. That's always been my, thing. I was never like, oh yeah, let's trade for this guy right now. Eppler is only 26. Yeah, you have to think about. Urias is only. Urias is a really good pitcher. He is.
Yeah, exactly. We need him 35 and above. I mean, that's the criteria.
Nice.
Pretty much. And how much that scoreboard cost? Jeez.
But
Good
yeah,
point.
I mean, they do have young arms in the farm system. They're not flashy, but there's a lot of guys I want to see make their major league debut after this trade deadline at the rate that
No,
they're
you're not
going.
going to see any of them. And you'll see
I want to
nothing.
see Vassell make his major league debut. Obviously, we need to see Mauricio like that. There's no excuse
Yeah.
at that point. We got to see Vientos up here, obviously.
Full time.
What's his name has yet to make his debut either. What's his name? Shit.
That's everybody. There's nobody else. That's everybody.
No, there
Dom
was a
Hamill. Let's
pitcher.
talk about Dom.
Maybe Dom Hamill. Yeah. He's struggled a lot this year, though.
How's
Hamill.
Carson Seymour doing? Is he doing anything?
I don't know. I actually
that was
have
the one
not really
piece
paid
that
attention.
it was really unfortunate to lose in that Darren Ruff trade.
Unfortunate. Let me
Fortunate.
actually see.
Christian Scott's balling too, and fucking
Yeah, not come off and so that's another thing. I mean, that isn't it. Seymour's been pretty good, decent, 3.43 earned run average.
neat.
Strikeouts are down though.
There's been a lot of bad Eppler moves, but where does trading Count Home for Daniel Vogelbach rank as far as worst Eppler moves?
It's bottom
probably
3. I think it is bottom 3, but
yeah.
I don't know if you want to technically. Sewald was DFA'd, right? Did we DFA Sewald?
We did.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Now
Another
he's
guy
in the
that
league.
I mean, he was
that's-
going to be good somewhere else.
And
He was
again,
gonna
it
be
goes
good somewhere
to
else.
like we've talked about with player development. Just they don't have it. Another example of a guy who leaves the Mets, all of a sudden becomes good. Was so bad with the Mets, given like Drew Smith a minute opportunity. It wouldn't surprise me all of a sudden Drew Smith became good if the Mets ever finally get rid of him too. Someone will like again. It's just like what
They
is
don't
it
want to
that
give up on him.
so many other
They don't want to give
organizations
up on
have
him
that
at
the
all.
Mets don't as far as player development.
I don't know if they're just scared he's going to be good somewhere else, or they just believe in him for some fucking reason because he throws relatively hard. Like, come on. I mean,
Dude, you should pull.
there's just so much dead weight. It really is.
Yep.
Yeah. Fans at this point are pretty fed up.
Yeah, $2 a fucking parkman doesn't help.
They
either.
believe in Vogel. I mean, we know they still believe in Vogelbach. I don't even know what they're going to do with him, to be honest. Does he get
They're gonna let
moved?
him walk
I
here.
hope so.
Who would take
What?
him?
I mean, you know,
like you said,
his
he's
hard
not
hit rate
a-
is very high, so somebody will take him.
Yeah, right into the ground.
Apparently.
And he actually swings the bat. He's another guy that we've talked about before, but he's been DFA'd like by multiple organizations, but yet for some reason has this huge leash on the Mets. Like he has this great reputation. It's just so puzzling.
I don't know. So awful. It's awful. There's so many pieces I would just offload. There's so many of them.
I wouldn't rule it out.
I'm hitting the ball harder than
If it's a hot September, they'll do it. We'll give him an extension.
Definitely 10-year extension.
Well, no, those keep giving like. 1
Escobar
year,
had a
2
good
years at a time.
September. He's gone.
Yeah, but we got
It's the month of Escobar.
Pablo Escobar.
we got a good prospect from it.
Did we really though?
By the Mets standards,
Justin Verlander's last 4 starts, 25 innings pitched, 1.80 earned run average.
Bro, you're
3
making fun of
walks,
yourself. Stop lying.
22 strikeouts. Ooh. Oh my God, he's doing what we need him to do for the last 4 starts. Oh my God, it's like, leave me alone. Leave it alone already. It's over. Mets versus Padres, the battle of disappoints.
Yep. Anybody
And
got
of course,
anything
Tim
else?
Anderson's only home run this year I just hit was against the A's.
Of course it was.
Unbelievable. All right. For those of you in the chat right now, for those of you watching, make sure to get your last comments in. We'll go for another 5 minutes, and then we'll skedaddle out of here. Just wanted to get on here, talk about the position we're in, because I don't think we could have put everything into 60 minutes for the next episode, because a lot has gone on in the last 2 weeks. So, yeah. We'll see where we go from here. I mean, we do have some videos that we're going to probably do. Obviously, it's probably going to regard a lot more selling than buying, obviously, because they.
I mean, and that's what Cohen basically said in the press conference, that if they remain the way they are, they're not going to add, because that would be silly.
Yeah. That would be stupid. Very, very stupid. I will say one thing. Speaking of just looking at the screen right here, that Reed Garrett guy, he's not bad. But will he even be good with us? Who knows? He does have... He's high 90s, got a hard slider. He's not bad, but what is going to actually come of it? Who knows?
Nothing.
He'll be in the bullpen in a week, so...
Pretty much. Is there anything?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Quintana, and I don't know what even is the point at this point. But yeah, this team's awful. No end in sight, I'd say.
No. Well, there is called August. It's gonna be August 1st, but again, we're counting that shit down.
It's weird to me that like not even Hefner's been fired. Even something like that. They just need.
No, you can't cut any cancer out. You just got to suffer. You just got to sit there and suffer until the season's over. They can't just no.
I mean, the way Hefner, like, they'll have the bases loaded, the Mets will be in the lead, then they'll give up the lead, then Hefner comes out. Then what I mean? Like, how many times have we seen just like no feel for the game? He comes in after the damage already done. Like, what are you gonna do now? I mean, the pressure's off the pitcher. They already blew the game. It's just like it seems like Alvarez and Lindor have a better feel of once visit and talk to the pitchers than the pitching coach does, and that's just such a bad look.
There's just such a lack of urgency just throughout the entire organization. I mean, that's what you're seeing. And
then Narvaez still.
Dead.
I mean, like I'm still not impressed with that at all. That was another just really bad outdoor move.
I mean, he's not even playing, but he's playing once a week. Or
he got paid too much to play once a week.
I mean,
no one pays the backup catcher that much money. That's just crazy.
You did, and he's in Baltimore.
No, we're paying him.
Yeah, but you did give.
We're paying him all
that much money.
At that time, he was the starting catcher.
No, he wasn't.
Yes.
Backup catcher to Yasmani Grandal.
Well, I mean, he was. But I'm saying
this
that
is
with the
guy. That's the guy. Hey. At least most of this money will be off the books, but we'll see.
But we'll see what they do with it. It's one thing to get rid of it, but I mean, even Cohen, that's another thing he said in his press conference at one point, was he doesn't think that they could keep like a $400 million payroll going forward. So, if this money goes off the books, are they just going to leave it off the books and keep the same team, or what are they going to do with that?
I'm glad that they're not going to keep it. I'm glad that they're not going to keep it every year, the $400 million. I'm glad. That means that they're committed to developing young play. I mean, here's the thing. Overall, the pitching we all know is going to be something to look out for the next few years. I mean, overall, they have had a few arms that have done pretty well in the minor leagues, and they do look really. They're not just like, oh, you're just putting up a decent ERA or whatever. No, like these are some talented arms that they have going up here. So I'm hoping, but I don't think it's going to come as quick as people think it's it's going to, and that's what's going to be very frustrating.
He dug himself a hole with the whole 3 to 5 year thing because that's looking very unrealistic right now.
Blade Tidwell is sexy. That's all I got to say.
Blade Tidwell is so good.
Blade Tidwell is sexy.
Good. Blade Tidwell's really good. Vassell has struggled in AAA recently, but I'm sure he's going to get his footing eventually. Hamill's not been great. Ziegler's still hurt.
He's still hurt.
Tyler Stewart has really brought up the ranks recently. Very tall. Yeah, tall man. Kristen Scott, he's up to 97 and 98. Big strikeout stuff. He's pretty live arm right now. There's a few younger guys like Leona Loaves, but he's not going to be here for a while. There's still there's arms that they do have, but are they actually going to develop them? We'll see what happens. Are we actually going to get the best from them? But we don't know. We don't know yet.
Or will they develop and blossom in another organization?
Maybe. He might. But no, Blade Tidwell is definitely the top guy. And we'll definitely see him in AA towards the end of the year. And hopefully we get to see him in spring training. I'm because he's a little bit older than a lot of the pitching prospects that we have. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure what is he, 22 maybe? 22?
He's young. Yeah, I think he's young, 22. That sounds right.
Yeah. Mike Vassell right now, he's 23 years old. I think it's time to bring him up here. I think it's time to see what he's got. But that only happens if they actually do
What?
That only happens if they do move some of these arms that are expiring, such as, if Carrasco is gone, I'm hoping to see a prospect.
He has to, not knowing the Mets. Yeah, he has to be gone. There's no.
Are you sure? Are you sure? I think
if he's back another year, I
think he could really help. I really think he could help this playoff run that we're on right now. But knowing the Mets, Jose Budo is going to be a main guy in the rotation when they get rid of Carrasco, who's basically just a younger Carrasco who just throws a bunch of meatballs. So, yeah. So Joel Diaz, he got Tommy John surgery. He won't be back.
And what scares me about Ty is that we're talking about the whole take the free agency approach. The Dodgers have the farm system where they could be like, we'll just take him now, and then the Mets never get a chance at him. So but that's the thing. We're not at that point yet, so we can't be taking those risks like that.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, but at this point. How old is Tidwell? Tidwell's 22. Yeah, exactly. I was right. Okay. Yeah, Tyler Stewart is not even ranked yet, but he's not even in our top 30, Tyler Stewart, which he should be. He's been fantastic. There's a few young guys to get excited for, but I'm not going to say, all 5 of these guys, this is going to be our elite rotation. We've got, but I don't understand why Tyler Stewart is still in high A right now. Wheeler. He's dominating. Yeah, it's not going to be your Harvey, Syndergaard, Wheeler, DeGrom, Matz. We don't know.
Because this is why we trade Jeff McNeil for Matt Brash. Get it out. Emerson Hancock.
Why we trade Jeff McNeil for Luis Castillo.
Well, yeah. But, I was stupid, right? I was the dumb one that said, oh, no. Castillo sucks.
Yeah. Where are the Mariners right now? We should get Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola's already just. He's not that good anymore.
He's taking a dip a little bit after that heavy workload, the playoff run last year. So you don't want him to.
He's only 29, but he was up here at age 20.
I hope he's not like a Strasburg situation where he just gets overworked.
He's just pork
to break down because he's been healthy, and I don't know how long you keep that up.
He's been dependable.
Yeah, it lasts so long.
Dude, what's going on with Zach Veen, by the way? Just completely off topic. What the fuck's going on with him?
He's dead.
He's dead. Colorado killed him. Fucking actually killed him.
When do they not?
Fucking bastards killed him. Yeah, they brought. All right, we done?
Wow.
I think we've hit the
I
quota.
think we're gonna wrap it up here. But yeah, throughout the next week, you're probably going to get some trade deadline content from either me and Andrew or Andrew by himself, or maybe the three of us. We'll see what happens. And then obviously the podcast. We're gonna definitely mix some things around. Maybe we'll have videos throughout the week for 1 week, and then another week we'll do a podcast or something. Because the team, there hasn't really been much changing action. It's kind of just been full on, we suck and just want to continue to suck. So you'll see what happens. Whatever we're really feeling like, to talk about going into the trade deadline, and it's officially 1 month away. So other than that, we're going to head out here. Any last words? Anything you guys want to put out on the table?
Fucking with Twitter. I want Twitter back.
Regarding the Mets.
Oh, they suck.
All right. Well, I'd say, we always say don't suck, but I think we've already gotten to the point where I think we've given up on this already, and it's time to make a change and get ready for it. Go win a series. Go do something.
Come on.
Play it out, I guess. Because I don't think you really have much of a choice. But other than that, all of our individual links in the description. Make sure to check out those 3 videos that we posted last week on the trade deadline. We'll have some more out there. Yeah. And yeah, I think we're going to head out. Let's go Mets. Get that to some of the guys that are, available at the trade deadline. Get your value up. That's all I ask.
Yep.
Time to blow this shit up. All right. See you guys.